Hi, guys. Good to see you again. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Corey, and I currently live in Columbus, Ohio. And it's so good to be in most of us our last semester. Crazy to think we're almost done, so yay for that. But my initial thoughts on the reading about addiction, from what I understood from the chapter, addiction can start many different ways. Um, but ultimately, it's our attachment to substance or things or feelings or people that detract us from the perfect love of God. And this can be seen, in several different ways throughout people's lives, throughout different stages of lives. But ultimately, it's covering up our need for God and for His grace and His love. And the author talked about how we always have a choice, that our souls have that natural yearning for that love and hope and grace in our lives, that we have this choice to choose what we're attached to. And through that choice, we can either choose to, I like how they said, to either loosen up our grip and attempt to open our hands, or we can clench fists and go white knuckles away from God. And I think that the cycle of addiction always begins with our awareness of who we are, what our tendencies are, and what we're striving towards in our lives. And he briefly touched on that, about how addiction starts with a lack of wisdom. And so, in my eyes, getting attached to things that are unhealthy and drive us towards addiction is just because of a lack of self-awareness or a lack of knowledge. And I think that can happen in several different ways, whether we're being lazy in our spiritual lives and the spiritual disciplines and stop doing those things that draw us closer to God, or maybe it's something that hurt us in the past or in the present that just make us want to pause on having a healthy life and try something different, which eventually leads to attachments to things that we think might bring us that completion, that joy, that thrill, but ultimately leaves us empty and wondering how we got ourselves here in the first place. And I've seen this several different times in my life where I've attached myself to certain feelings, one of them being control. I love feeling control of my life, my circumstances, my finances, my grades, my relationships, you name it. I like being in control. I like knowing what's going on. And it took a long time for me to realize my attachment and deep down my addiction to feeling in control. And that's something that I still work on with God daily. I've also realized that people can be addicted to lies that they believe about themselves or that's been spoken over them. For example, I was in a small group this summer and we talked about identity and how the enemy really loves to wrap false identities around us and trap us in those. And so I never realized how attached I was to certain lies that I've just believed deep down in my soul, until I really asked the Lord to reveal to me what I truly believed about myself and what I've attached my identity to. And so I think addiction is also realizing and asking the Lord to reveal what we've attached ourselves to, because sometimes our attachments are second nature to us and our addictions are comfortable and we don't see anything wrong with them because we still read our Bible, we still go to church, we're still working in ministry, things are going great, and it's easy to ignore maybe some of the small things or less severe things like the author talks about that we're addicted to. But ultimately, we just got to realize that it's keeping us away from the perfect love that God has for us. I think the chapter was beautiful in explaining that addiction could be possibly seen as a gift, but ultimately it leads to God's grace that's always there, always waiting for us, not something to be taken advantage of, but is just something that is always there to not soften the blow, I guess, but to help us realize that we're not dirty, we're not, we shouldn't feel shameful, that we're incomplete, but that the grace is there to show us that there could be a new way of life and a new alternate route of living that you might have been taken due to your addiction. And I think that's so beautiful that God offers that to us. No matter what the addiction is, no matter what we've attached ourselves to, no matter how long we've been in a relationship with Christ, that grace and the level of grace is still available to us on a day-to-day basis. And so this chapter really laid out how addictions happen, and how we can have freedom in Christ no matter what. So I hope you guys are doing great. I hope you had a great summer, and I'm excited to dive into this course and learn a little bit more.